What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, coming back at y'all with another week 4 preview, man. We've already had a bunch drop this week. We dropped some on Tuesday, we dropped some yesterday on Wednesday, and now we're here on Thursday, man. And we got a huge Pac-12 matchup that we are going to preview to kick off the day. It starts at 5 p.m. Central Time, kicks off on the Pac-12 network. We got the number 24 UCLA Bruins against Stanford in a huge matchup to determine really who's going to be one of the top contenders against the projected favorite Oregon for this Pac-12 championship this year. We've seen so many contenders fall to the wayside in the Pac-12, whether it be Colorado's early struggles, whether it be BYU beating up on the Pac-12 left and right, whether it be USC's quarterback issues, and then even Arizona State dropping to BYU last week. Both of these teams are in prime position, and this is going to be a great chance to get a huge win on their resume for a huge Pac-12 race this year. You look at the storylines coming in. UCLA was one of the hottest teams in the country going into last week. They jumped all the way to number 13 in the rankings, and they suffered a huge upset loss to Fresno State. But now they have a chance to kick off this Pac-12 gauntlet with a huge road win over Stanford, who, on the flip side, they suffered a tough week 1 loss to Kansas State, in which Kansas State ran up and down the field on them in Jerry World. But they bounced back with 2 huge road wins. They upset USC, which was a top 15 team at the time, and they beat Vanderbilt on the road in a pretty convincing fashion. Now, they have a chance here if they can pull another top 25 upset to move to 3-1, but also move to 2-0 in the Pac-12 and set themselves up for a very, a major run to a Pac-12 championship potentially. They would have the advantage over a lot of these other Pac-12 schools. Now, you look at this series, and it's been so one-sided, in recent history. Stanford has won 12 of the last 13 games against UCLA. But in the overall series, UCLA leads it 46-43, and they also had 3 ties in the history of this matchup. Now, the keys to the game. We'll start with UCLA because it's obvious. Anyone who has watched UCLA play a single game this year, whether it was the Hawaii game, the LSU game, last week against Fresno State, it's always just to run the football. You have to run the ball if you're UCLA. You got to keep the pressure off of Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Zach Charbonnet and Britton Brown have to get fed over and over and over and over and over again, man. You could just keep saying over. I could spend 15 minutes saying over. I don't know if there was any team in the country to start the season, maybe other than Michigan or even Auburn against 2 lesser opponents, that were better than the Bruins over the first 3 games of the season. Zach Charbonnet exploded onto the scene. He's been the top, big play option for this offense, while they have the number 2 back in Britton Brown, who's probably the most consistent option as an every down back, and he'll get a lot of the workload on the inside of this offense. Now, you look at what they've done. Charbonnet, 242, 6 rushing touchdowns already, and he's still averaging over 10 yards per carry, while Brown has just under 200 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and he's still averaging over 5 yards per carry. The Bruins have to establish the run. If they can't do that, then Stanford is going to really be able to control the pace of this game. They're going to be able to wear down that UCLA defense, and that was the exact game plan Fresno State had last weekend when they completely shut down this run game and UCLA got upset. They have to stick with the run game. Even if you aren't getting it going early, you have to find a way to establish it at some point in this game, because what it really does is open up this Chip Kelly offense to operate at its most efficient level. And that's what the key is for UCLA, regardless of who they're playing. This team is run first, and if you can't run the ball, the rest of the offense is going to be in trouble. Now, I thought Dorian Thompson-Robinson last week did a nice job of trying to carry this team to a win, even after that run game was shut down. But the key to dominate a game like UCLA expects to do is to run the football. Now, the rushing attack has really helped Dorian Thompson-Robinson make the plays down the field in crucial situations, even when this Bruins offense, might not be operating at its highest level. He just has to have that ability to be able to air out that deep ball. 55% completion percentage for the year has to improve, but because they've been running the ball so well, that's been good enough to win. But if you shut down the run, that becomes a major problem, as it did last week. Over 668 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He's done an excellent job not turning the ball over, and he's averaging a whopping 11 yards per attempt this season, which is one of the highest marks in the country. He's pushing the ball down the field, and that's what I meant by the deep ball has been, I guess, the key for Thompson-Robinson this year. 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards passing, and he has an 88.2 Pro Football Focus grade and passes 20-plus yards down the field, which is one of the better marks in the country. Now, if it's not a deep ball, the intermediate has not been great for Thompson-Robinson, but underneath passes have kept this UCLA offense alive. 76% of those passes are completed by Thompson-Robinson, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. But once you force him into those intermediate routes, that's where he kind of struggles this season. So you've got to try to take away the deep ball, which is set up by the run game, but you also can't let him dink and dunk you to death underneath, because he can do that all day as well. The most successful formula for the Bruins has been use this rushing attack to allow Thompson-Robinson to push the ball down the field. And when that happens, he averages 17.7 yards per attempt and 3 touchdowns off of play action concepts. Because what they did to Hawaii and what they did to LSU is pound the ball right up the middle, pound the ball down their throats. And right when they brought those safeties down, Thompson-Robinson and Chip Kelly dialed up a deep pass, and it hit. He is not afraid to air it out. He's got the arm strength to do it, and he has the ability to make you pay deep if you try to stack the box to stop Charbonnet and Britton Brown. So that's the keys for UCLA. I don't care if they were playing Alabama. That would be the key for UCLA this weekend against Stanford. Now, for Stanford, on the other hand, as well as their run game has looked in the past 2 weeks, my key here is to let Tanner McKee go out and win this game for you. The UCLA secondary is the weakness of this team, and McKee has shown that he can be a playmaker for this offense, and he has solid weapons on the outside that he can utilize in open space and let them go make a play. Now, Tanner McKee took over for Jack West in week 1, who really struggled early against Kansas State. But now he's led Stanford to 2 huge wins in 2 weeks, and also has shown that he can be the leader of this team. He's in a shocking number. I mean, he's completed over 70% of his passes, 570 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks is also the key. If he can keep avoiding turnovers, Stanford's going to be right in the thick of this game. Now, McKee has lived in the short to intermediate passing range, unlike Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's led this Cardinal offense to scoring drives by playing smart football and letting his playmakers ball out, which is why that's the key for him this weekend. In passes from 0 to 19 yards down the field, he's completed 82% of his passes, 32 for 38 for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, while averaging over 10 yards per attempt. He will beat you with the mid-range passes all day, and really and truly, that's where UCLA really struggles. So this is going to be a huge matchup to watch. McKee and this wide receiver core against that, middle of the UCLA secondary, those safeties and corners are going to have to bring their best this weekend. Now, you look at the wide receiving core. Bryson Tremaine is the number 1 matchup nightmare for them. 13 catches, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns already. And he's been the key to this Stanford offense. He's caught over 10 first downs for this offense. So when everything else is lost, you can go out there and you can get Tremaine in a one-on-one matchup, and he's going to go make a play if you give him a chance at the football. Now, John Humphreys and Elijah Higgins are also going to be key, especially Humphreys in terms of the deep ball, while Higgins is more of the underneath safety net that can go make some plays out in space underneath the defense. Now, both of those guys have combined for almost 20 catches, over 200 yards, but Humphreys is averaging close to 20 yards per catch. So watch him if Stanford tries to take a 1 or 2 deep shots in this game. Now, Also, don't forget about Austin Jones, been the main running back for the Stanford offense. He's been such a dynamic option out at the backfield in terms of the short running back passing game, and he might be able to take advantage of some of these linebacker or big safety matchups. He can get out in the open field, and he can go make a play for you. So also watch out for Austin Jones on this offense. Now, McKee must be efficient. He has to keep avoiding turnovers, and he has to allow his playmakers to take advantage of those favorable matchups in the secondary. Stanford has the matchup advantage in terms of wide receivers against these UCLA defensive backs, and Stanford has to go let them make plays. And so that's why I say let McKee be the distributor and let your talent on the outside of this team go make plays against a weak spot of this UCLA defense. Now, as much as those are important matchups, I still think due to the strength of the UCLA running game, the matchup to watch is the UCLA running backs and offensive line against this front seven of the Stanford defense, because this is going to determine so much in this game, because Stanford's giving up over 200 yards rushing per game, and we have seen what UCLA can do if you allow them to run the ball consistently. Now, the key, though, is for UCLA to avoid the collapse they had last week against Fresno State. Brown and Charbonnet only combined for 42 total yards, and they got away from the run early. They only had 13 carries combined. That cannot be the case. They have to run the ball over and over and over again and make sure they can wear down the Stanford front seven. But the Stanford front seven has to try to also make some plays against the UCLA team where they showed some weaknesses last week for the first time on the ground. Now, the Bruins offensive line has to continue to impose their will against the Stanford defensive front. That's been a huge key for this team. The number one gap has been the A gap for the Bruins. That right there behind the center, in between the centers and guards on either side. The A gap has already been used for almost 200 yards rushing, guys, and they're averaging over 6 yards per carry when targeting the A gap. Those centers and guards are winning their matchup on the inside. That's going to be a key. And if Stanford can't control the middle of this line of scrimmage, it's going to be an extremely long day for this defense. Now, the defensive line is led by Thomas Booker, Gabe Reed. They've combined for over 30 tackles, and they're the two highest graded run defenders on this defensive line. While at linebacker, they're going to have to rely on Jacob Magnum-Farrar, who's the highest rated run defender on this entire defense, and Levani Damuni at linebacker as well, who is one of the most experienced linebackers in the Pac-12, and he's probably the leader of this defense along with Booker for Stanford. These guys have to control the line of scrimmage. They have to maintain their gap integrity, because if you can't slow down this run game, UCLA is going to run away with this one. But once you shut it down, this UCLA offense really gets off rhythm, and they can be had in perfect matchup because their wide receivers really and truly aren't that type of go-get-it playmakers. Chip Kelly's offense relies on them to be able to run the ball. You can win this game if you're Stanford if you shut this run game down. So that's why I picked this front seven versus the O-line and running backs matchup for Stanford and UCLA this weekend. Now, for my official prediction, man, I think this game is going to be extremely interesting. I think McKee's going to be able to go make some plays. I also think that Charbonnet and Brown are going to be able to control the clock at times. It's going to come down to who isn't going to make that mistake to lose the game. And for me, I really think that UCLA is going to be able to, in the second half, really take advantage of a worn down front seven for Stanford and make one or two plays to win the game late, probably score late to jump ahead and never lose that and be able to run the clock out, because Stanford isn't going to be able to stop the run consistently enough to win. I have a very close game, but I have UCLA 31, Stanford 27, and an outstanding Pac-12 matchup on Saturday night. So, guys, make sure if you're new to hit that subscribe button. Also, go ahead and smash that thumbs up on this video, man. Definitely helps us out. And like I said, man, we have the best and most in-depth college football content on YouTube, so you're going to want to smash that subscribe button as well. But I got the Bruins 31, Stanford 27. Comment your score predictions below in the comments, and also give me your takes on this game. Love to hear what y'all are thinking and seeing. Tell me where I was wrong. Tell me what I missed. I love to get some feedback. But guys, we'll be back this afternoon with some more previews. Also, go to our week 4 college football content playlist and also check out all our other previews for the week. Man, we have so many coming up. We've already done so many. You aren't getting this college football content anywhere else on YouTube. But guys, we'll see y'all this afternoon. But for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.